You know what? I'm gonna start off by being honest. I used to love Nostalgia Critic and by extension Doug Walker. I thought he was a funny, silly little guy making videos. Hell, I still get some ironic enjoyment out of older episodes to this day. I was fascinated by the channel awesome ecosystem of creators and wanted to be part of it until everything imploded in 2018 for reasons well documented on this website. However, did you know that in 2018, before all that shit went down, that there was gonna be a movie celebrating the 10th anniversary of the site and would serve as a spiritual successor to other famous Doug Walker productions like Kick-Assia, Suburban Nights, and To Boldly Flee? This is the unproduced channel awesome movie, The Devil's Jesters. Full disclosure, all the information I've gathered and presented here today comes from the excellent How Did This Not Get Made podcast episode where cast member and former Channel Awesome contributor Tony Goldmark spilled the beans on the movie that never was. Check that podcast out if you want a more in-depth synopsis, but I still want to make this video because I have some of my own thoughts on the ideas presented that I want to chip in, and I want more people to know that we almost got a To Boldly Flee spiritual successor because that thought of more people discovering this makes me laugh. Anyway, what was The Devil's Jesters gonna be about? Well, much like the title suggests, it was going to be a horror parody movie where the titular Devil's Jesters are 80s slasher movie tropes that are after the Channel Awesome critics for, quote-unquote, exposing their so-called cliches. From the synopsis provided, it seems like this movie was going to have a lot of meta humor, and I mean crawling up your own asshole levels of meta humor. Stuff like the main character starting off the film by shooting a horror movie spoof about shooting a horror movie spoof, while the movie itself is a horror movie spoof, which basically sets the tone for a lot of the plot points and jokes we know from this movie, and that sounds really insufferable to me, and I usually like meta humor. It probably would have been amplifying problems with meta commentary of stuff like To Boldly Flee to an even more pretentious degree. It also has, nothing to say on horror movies, their tropes, and critics from the synopsis. It just kind of poked fun of them, and that's it, with no greater statement or thesis. Which I find really lame, because for how unfunny this movie seems to be, at least could have been somewhat more interesting if it had something to say at the end. Instead, it's just, horror movies. Yeah, am I right, fellas? One of the few positives, I can give to The Devil's Jesters is the apparent ambition of the production, as Doug was reportedly planning to spend a lot of money on an actual film crew, elaborate costumes, and most importantly for a horror film, gore. In the synopsis provided, there's a scene where the Nostalgia Critic's brain is drilled open to expose all the fleshy stuff within, which, if you know your average Channel Awesome production, that sounds kind of impossible with the material normally used for those videos. If they played their cards right, this might have been the best looking production under Doug Walker's name, but that's a very big if right there, as his productions are usually filled with cheesy green screen and Halloween costumes, so who knows how much of a step up it would have been if it happened. And that is some of the public information and my thoughts on The Devil's Jesters. Honestly, much like other Channel Awesome anniversary movies, it probably would have sucked, but maybe it would have been slightly charming like Kick-Assia and less painful like To Boldly Flee. Who knows, but it's probably for the best this film didn't get made. I mean, so many bridges have been burned since the 2018 incident, and everyone's moved on to greener pastures at this point. Though there's always a morbidly curious part of me that wants to read the full version of the script to see what exactly Doug was cooking, but I should probably move on at this point. Man, I used to be a Doug Walker fiend. I saw him in person 7 times before I stopped following him unironically. And yes, I said unironically because there's a strange mimetic pull to him that I always find myself slipping back into occasionally. Heck, you could even consider this video me slipping back into the Doug memes. But you know what? I gotta keep moving forward. I gotta form my own path in this online video making scene. And if that means riffing on an unmade movie made by one of my former inspirations, so be it. Happy April Fools, y'all. And make sure to watch out for the Garden Gnome Priest. Anyway, I forgot to mention that. There's a Garden Gnome Priest in the script. Doug's really fascinated by